Morning.
Good morning.
Toastmasters and honored guests. Glad to have you here. I used some of these questions last week, but as luck would have it, I think Walter and Lucifer were the only two here last week that heard them, so this is like a brand new game. Okay, I'm going to start with the quotes. I went online and picked out some quotes, and they're kind of fun, and I want you to tell me what this quote means. Raymond Lindquist, whoever he is, made this quote. Courage is the power to let go of the familiar. What does this mean? Debbie.
Okey-doke.
What was the question again?
Courage is the power to let go of the familiar.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. For about a year or two, I've been reading these books about how to manage your mind, how to manage your thinking, the subject matter. One of the books that I read had me keep a schedule and write down. One of the problems that I had was I'd get in at 5 o'clock. I'm going to have a glass of wine. Of course, a glass of wine is not nearly as good unless you have a piece of cheese to put in your tongue. Right. Between getting that cheese and then you got to have crackers with it because that's what you crunch there. Between those three foods, the wine, the cheese, the cracker, you end up with a half a cracker, so you need a little more cheese. Got to wash that down with a little wine. Pretty soon, it's out of control. And what I need to do next is I need to go down to my office because my work requires me to do a lot of evening work. Well, half a bottle of wine, one glass goes to two. Just can't think as well or work as quickly as you would normally. So this book had me track my moods and how I felt. I could have the best of intentions about the work that I was going to do as I was driving in and thinking about all these things I could do. And suddenly, when I crossed the threshold into my house, my mind went in a different direction. It was getting something to eat. And that was all because I was distracted and did not want to go downstairs and work. I had to look at those things and be able to watch that desire and just notice it while I took my body downstairs. And if I didn't want to work, I had to just look at those thoughts and listen to that voice that was telling me to get wine and cheese. Because you know what? That voice is not really me. But I can let that voice dictate to me, or I can just sit and watch the voice and say, that's interesting that you want a glass of wine. And how different is that from the voice in the morning that tells me I want coffee? It's the same voice. So I had to look at those thoughts, those feelings, those moods, those gestures, and so many of us keep doing the same thing, and we expect things in our life to change, and they don't. Courage is when you look at those things and say, hey, have a Dr. Phil moment. How's that working for you? It's not. We've got to do something different here. That's the courage that moves you into a different phase where you want to go.
Okay. Jason, would you be willing to come up here?
Yes.
Okay. I have a quote for you.
Okay.
John F. Kennedy quote. Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. Tell us what this means, please.
Okay, good morning, fellow Toastmasters and fellow guests.
My name is Jason Swan. I am going to be speaking on the quote by John F. Kennedy, "Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth." What does this mean to me? I've been in business for 4 years, about 4 years now. It's been probably the longest, hardest, best 4 years of my entire life. And what I've learned about becoming a businessman is that I have to break out of my own mold. I've been conformed. I was conformed as a family man. I was conformed as an employee. An employee is something different than an owner. You have many different roles as an owner. And my mind, my habits were conformed in this way of whatever you want to call that way, as an employee, as a normal, average, everyday person. Being conformed in that way, and that mindset, is really the enemy of me becoming a better business person. Every day I get up and go do the same thing. My mind is set and doing the same thing. I have to be thinking out of the box. For instance, coming to a meeting like this, I had found over this few years that I'm not a very good speaker. I use a lot of ums. I don't look at people in their eyes. I get nervous and shaky before I have to go up. This is my second meeting. I'm already getting better, and I see how going against my conformity is bringing me out, and how that was the enemy of changing, because I wasn't breaking that conformity. That's what it means for me.
I keep getting a lot of quotes and things on Facebook. It's turning out to be not what I bargained for on Facebook, but one of Eleanor Roosevelt's quotes is, "Do one thing